Hi everyone, I'm Ken Rakowski, Sandy Grigsby, and this is our weekly hang, and we talk about things that are going on. Today, we're going to talk about the idea of creating the perfect event, online and offline, and why they both are important. Or as Sandy knows, I say it all the time, an epicenter of opportunity, because you're going to congregate people to you so you could really find where there are things happening. Sandy, you've been to events all over the world.
Yes.
Okay, first let's talk about the worst event you've ever been to. And I'm not throwing you in the bus because I just got to tell you, because you almost want to forget them.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think we've all gone through, I'm thinking, ponder it. I'll tell you the worst one I've ever been to. I flew across the planet to an event in Hong Kong. And I was on a panel, and I wasn't told that I'm the only one that will be speaking English on the panel. Everybody else on the panel were speaking either Mandarin or Cantonese, and I'm the one with the translator. 99% of the audience did not speak English, which is really shocking, by the way, because Hong Kong is a very English-speaking space. So every time they would ask me a question, it would have to go through a translator, and then to me, and then back to a translator. And none of my jokes worked. Everything fell apart. And of course, everybody at the end would go up to everybody else on the panel. Yes, very good. You know, whatever they would say. And me, no one. I was like the last kid picked at an event. So, you know, like, hey, don't pick that one. And I just kind of walked away. The irony is they paid $25,000 for me to be there to speak, and it went flat. The entire event, no one mentioned that it was not in English. Horrible event for me to attend. Now, an event to go to, and I hate to say this, and I apologize if I piss you all off out there, are the local Chamber of Commerce events. Like a little town, you go and everything's kind of cheesy, and they're using like an old set that they've gotten from somebody else and another set, you know, like not a set, but like a table, and they're using a really bad velour background.
Mike always has backfeed.
Yeah, it was just horrible. And these people are like professionals, but I noticed the local events could be really bad, but this event was the worst. Now, you've done Tony Robbins, which are insanely well produced.
Yeah, I'd say the worst event was one that I did. You actually came with me.
What?
Yeah, I was supposed to be the MC for the event. And they did not get, I'm like, okay, what do I need to prepare? You're good. We'll let you know when you get there. I'm like, no, you need to send me in advance. So they gave me a couple of names, but that was it. And then they didn't give me any other information. I get there. Okay, what's the schedule? We'll let you know. And I just got up on stage and I had to wing it. And then they pretty much put everything in my control and I knew nothing about it.
It was done real well. You did a good job.
But there were like 20 people in the audience.
It was pretty bad. It was embarrassing for them.
And I was looking around and going, oh my gosh, yeah.
The worst event I ever produced was in Slovakia, in Bratislava. You know where that is on the map, right? So I flew to Bratislava, which by the way is an amazing location. I get to the venue and they go, yeah, we're going to do this event. We'll have 14,000 people show up. I go, great. What's the schedule? And they looked at me going, well, what do you want to do? I go, well, what do you mean? The event's in 2 days. They go, well, you're coordinating the event. I go, you have nothing planned for 14,000 people? No. And I put on a freaking great event because I was basically a dictator. They're used to that in that part of the world. So we pulled off a great event. I want to talk about the idea of putting on events, micro events in your community, and then big events online and offline. And I wanted to share this with you because it's really important, because events are starting to pick up again. We're going to Nashville in 2 weeks. 2 weeks for an in-person live event. And imagine this event's gonna be during the COVID time, and they're kind of like saying it's a bit iffy. You know, we're doing an event, it's gonna be a little different. What should we do? What are some of the common practices? And that's what I want to talk about today. Okay, Tony Robbins are probably the best events out there. I know, I was taking a nap earlier. Tony Robbins are probably the best events out there, right?
They're pretty good if you like 10,000 people.
10,000 people.
I think Brenda Bouchard's events are also very well organized, very well organized.
And what makes it a great organized event?
Seamless, smooth check-in process. That's like the most, if you have a messy, sloppy check-in and people are frustrated, you're starting the event off on the wrong foot, period. So Brendan, I actually think, is even more superior than Tony, but Tony also has like 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Brendan's is super smooth. They allow people, and if you don't know Brendan Bouchard, he's a New York Times bestselling author. He's like the world's high performance coach. When you think high performance coach, coaching, he wrote the book on that.
Yeah.
And his live events, he's done speaker. He's done like World's Greatest Speaker,
Great events.
Experts Academy, a bunch of other ones, High Performance Academy. He's done all these different ones. But the check-in process is so smooth that when you get there, you don't wait for very long, and they have it done by groups, and different groups go into the theater at a different time. So, and it rotates through the days, so everyone gets the experience.
But it's memorable.
Yeah, it's beautifully done. It's memorable. The people are very polite.
TED events are great. If you ever done to a TED, not a TEDx, but a TED event, incredible. You spoke at a TEDx, which did not merit the level of the other TEDx events. Bad stage, bad lighting.
But I think the reason for that was when I was invited to do the TEDx. I was so excited that I had actually gotten invited.
Yeah.
It's actually my second time being invited. The first time was in the UK and I couldn't do that one. But the second time I was very excited. I didn't do my homework. So I tell people now who are excited about doing a TEDx, research it, find out what their stage is like, find out what their environment is like.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Okay, so here's the first thing we want to talk about, and I want to talk about an online event. Online, which you see with us doing every single Saturday, what we're doing here, an online event. The most important thing is have a purpose. Because I've noticed a lot of people saying, hey, we're going to do a Zoom call on Tuesday. Let's just hang out. What are we doing? It's just a hangout. Those don't really do well. They might have a bunch of people hang out the first time, but if you want some momentum, if there's no purpose, it just doesn't really work.
You need to have value. Why would you go if there's no value?
There's no value, but have a purpose. Every event has a purpose. You go to church or a synagogue or a mosque, there's a purpose, right? When you go to a TED event, there's a purpose. And that could be through networking or connecting or learning about something. But the purpose is really the self-defining thing that moves that event forward. The online events, and I've been watching a lot of these, their purposes are weak. They really do a lot around who the speakers are, and they think that's it. Now, understand, Metal's unique because it's the community that really powers what goes on. So our community, and then it's the speakers, because look at Saturday last week, we had no speakers and 150 people showed up just to be part of the community. So we're unique, but most events online, if their purpose isn't really well crafted, it doesn't work. Now, once you know what that purpose is, you have to make sure you promote it right. Promoting it right means what? Well, I know that you do a confidence class, and before you've promoted it, you made sure the purpose was tight. And it's going to take you 2.5 months to validate a purpose. Think about it, 2.5 months to validate it before it's promoted. That's a lot of A/B testing, making sure it's going to work. But to understand its purpose and solidify that the people are going to be there, like you've done a couple of live events. Have they changed over the last couple of weeks, the live events that you've done?
You mean on Zoom?
Yeah. Not really.
No, I got it done right the first time.
Yeah, because
been practicing here.
Yeah, you remember, you have been practicing here.
Yeah.
But that online, make sure it's tight. People feel like they're part of, like right now we're doing the Zoom call. I haven't called on anyone yet. We haven't touched upon anyone yet. So you're almost like a voyeur. You're not a participant. You got to make sure that the voyeur and participants, they connect. You're part of, you're part of it. And we're going to get to you in a moment, okay? But I want to make sure that you have a purpose, but practice that purpose so you can promote. Now, let me just give you an example. With Metal, we promote through our mailing list. Sandy's events, when she's ready, when she's done practicing that purpose and ready to promote, you're going to use relationships to promote it, right? Other mailing lists.
Other people's mailing lists.
Yeah, but you know that their mailing list, the people that read their stuff, is perfectly set for your stuff.
Yeah, because I specifically sought people who don't have competing lists. So they're not selling the same service that I'm selling. Completely different lists.
Important. Like what we're going to do with Metal to start growing our group is we're going to non-competitive organizations that have really high quality men, and we're only becoming an adjunct to what they're doing. So we're not going to steal anything from them. We're only going to make their brand look better. So we find lists. Now, what Sandy's probably going to have to do is you're probably going to have to give a percentage of ticket sales to each one of those lists.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Is there a percentage average?
Well, it just depends on the product. some people say the industry standard is 50%. I know that's not true. Other people say 20 to 30%. I think 30% is a fair one, depending on what you're selling. If it's incredibly high ticket, then it's a different situation. But if it's not super high ticket, maybe 30%, 40% is good.
And in the platforms you use, you might have Eventbrite, which probably is the one that most people use. They have affiliate numbers inside there. So if somebody comes to Sandy's event and they see that affiliate code, they know where that percentage would go. So affiliate codes are really, really important when it goes to mailing lists, because then that mailing list manager knows how much was generated based upon the affiliate codes that are inside things like Eventbrite, okay? So again, we have purpose, and then we have promotion. Once you have purpose and promotion, then it really goes to what Sandy said, what she liked about Brendan Burchard is the check-in process. Now, if you've noticed, you have different virtual check-in processes. This is different than real world events. One is they give you a code. So if it's Zoom, then you have to put in a code and then you're in, which by the way, I hate. I hate those codes. Do you know why I hate those?
What?
Because I might be on my phone and then I might be driving. So I click on that link, which is great. Now I'll stick the phone there as I'm driving, but then you have to put a code in, which means you have to go back to the email to figure out what the code is, which is
stop driving.
Right?
For some people.
I don't stop driving. Remember the Tesla just said, oh, keep on growing. But that's one way, is to have a code. Another way is you literally go through a check-in process. You put your credentials in there, which we do at Metal. We ask you for your name, we ask you for your phone number, your zip code, because we want to be able to understand where you are in the world. And then when you go into Metal, if you notice, there's an approval process. We check if you're a member, if you're a guest, if you're going through the approval process. We do all of that real time. So we have a manager that's watching who's coming into the event. Imagine if 10,000 people are going through that. That's really, it's elaborate. Now, Brendan Burchard, an event you were going through was your training class. I want to say you had 1,000 people, which Zoom only limits you in certain carry, about 300 people, I believe.
So the way that he did it was he had multiple Zoom rooms. So he would fit up to about 290 per room. And then he had himself live streaming on his actual website.
On YouTube?
So no, it was on his website.
Oh, got it.
So you log into your membership portal because you had to be a member. You log in the membership portal, you click the link that takes you to that page, and then you refresh so it's live. So you're watching him live, and then you engage with your people in your dedicated Zoom room. And I think he had like 3 or 4 rooms going.
Yeah, we did the same thing with Dr. Dorfman when it came to his LEAP program. We had him streaming through YouTube, and then we had multiple people in different Zooms, 300 each, and we were able to break those down into smaller rooms. The biggest problem you have then is you don't see everybody. You don't see all 1,000 people, which is kind of nice to see. Imagine what Tony Robbins did. He spent $8 million to do his event where he had, what was it, like 21,000?
Something crazy.
21,000 people.
All on screens.
And they were all on screens that he saw.
Room.
It was amazing what he did. But he crafted a new concept for virtual events with all that energy, because Tony's a very energetic person. But what he did was he was able to, for him to see all that audience, because I'm like that too. I get more energy by seeing the audience and seeing their faces. He crafted the same thing. If you go to Tony Robbins' YouTube page, they show you how he put it together. But it was $8 million to put that event together, which is the course over 2.5 days. It was mind-boggling what he did. Okay, so again, we have our purpose, you practice, you promote. Mailing lists are one way, or of course you can use affiliates. And then the check-in process, which I think Sandy identified really well. If it's a great check-in process online where you feel like, oh, I matter, this is important, now you're in. You've just begun, by the way, because your event, online and offline, really is all around the idea of the energy and the interactivity to make sure there's no lull times. And always remember, your first one is your
worst.
Yeah, it's always worst. You got to get it out of the way. If you're going to do an online event or a real world event, you get the first one out of the way because your first is your worst. And once you get it out of the way, thank God, because your second and third and fourth gets so much easier. But if you notice what we do inside Metal, we craft Metal kind of like a TV show or a radio show. We have so many segments that are broken in there because we know the attention span of most people online is about 10 minutes. That's it. It's 10 minutes. Most conversational points are about 90 seconds. Meaning if I'm having a back and forth dialogue with somebody, if it goes over a minute and a half, people start tuning off. You got a lot of distractions on a lot of online event because you have a screen there. You have Facebook and instant message all challenging for someone's time. So you know you have to always capture that the individual's attention, and it's tough to do.
What's the best way to do that? Put them on the spot.
Oh God,
Jen
yeah.
loves that.
I
It
do.
works for me too.
I
In
do.
my group, so they aren't distracted with their phones. I'm like, you, and they're like, oh, door's ready.
It's so
Works.
true. Always. Matter of fact, if you guys remember the real world event, some of you were able to attend, people would sit in the audience. Nolan's a great example who's sitting there. He would never know when I'm going to call upon him. So you can never like, oh, I'm looking down at my phone. What? You're like that kid in school going, you don't remember what? I always call upon people because I want to make sure they're always present. We could do the same thing online now too, by unmuting somebody and bringing them into the conversation. Like for example, let's do it. Let's go over to Nolan.
Hi,
And
Nolan.
Nolan's camera is off and so is his sound. So first what I do is identify that. I specify that Nolan's sound and camera off because I can't get him on there. That means Nolan really probably isn't paying attention. Nolan Bushnell, are you paying attention? Come on, Nolan. Probably not. We'll see if he ever pops by. Let's see if he comes back on.
Yeah.
But I love doing that. That whole like pop, you're not ready, you're not sure what's going on. Okay, back to the event. The online event, if you go, we do a 4-hour event on Saturdays, which is insanely long. It really is. But we break it up into networking, I call it connecting, the event, which is 2 hours, and then connecting at the end. We found this to work out because what we do is you go in those breakout rooms here and there. We do polls, we do things that allow you to always lean in. Oh, they're going to call on me. They're going to ask me a question. They're going to allow me to chat, to participate. You got to make sure you're doing an event, not a webinar. What's the difference between the online events, like what we're doing now, and a webinar?
Oh, a webinar is usually that they just watch. So they can ask questions, but you don't see other people on camera, and it's pretty much just you're a voyeur.
You can tell them really the secret of webinars. Are they live?
A lot of times they're not. Sometimes they are, but most often they're not. And then there are systems that are so sneaky, you actually think you're watching a live one when you're not.
Yeah, most of those webinars you're watching were recorded before.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because they give you a countdown clock saying, oh, the webinar starts in 34 more minutes, 19 more minutes, 7 minutes. Hey, 1 minute until it starts. It's not really starting. It's just playing.
It's been started.
It's already gone. They did it months ago. And that's actually really a smart thing they've been doing for a long time, the online webinars. What we're doing is real live interacting because you could see the chat, you could see us reply to the chat, or we will unmute people and so forth. It's live. I personally like these better than webinars, but I understand webinars have a purpose. And that is, it's a scalable model. They could play over and over again. Once Sandy does an incredible event and it works perfectly, she might turn that into a webinar so it's making money for her on its own clock. So while she's sleeping, it's playing for people on the other side of the planet. It's really smart, actually. But there's a place for those, and there's a place for online events. Okay, we're almost done when it comes to our virtual events. Make sure in the virtual events you acknowledge people. What we do with the breakout rooms, which a lot of people don't do, is people get to interact and talk about the topics. I'll give you a little secret. If you notice, every single Saturday, we do a breakout room around something that I have brought up. It could be, hey, what was your favorite concert? Or what was your favorite mother's dish that you made? Or, you know, what was your first car? That's a mutual conversational topic, meaning you guys have experiences around that. Let's talk about that. And then it'll have more of a connection point. Breakout rooms for no purpose don't really meet a purpose. You kind of go, well, what do we do now? We're here. The idea of that is to create a conversation. So I know you do the same thing in your events. You say, hey, let's talk about, if it's confidence, let's talk about the times that you felt you had a lot of personal guilt. Break off and talk about it. But if you just say, hey, talk, it doesn't really achieve anything, does it?
No, you have to give people instructions pretty much. So I do this exercise in my groups that works is I have them project what they see for their future. So I have someone, we time them, you have like 30 seconds or a minute, and you have to quickly project your idea of what you see for whatever the topic is that we're doing. And then I call upon people and they can say one thing. So they say, I see for you, and then they say the next thing. It gets people super engaged because They have to listen to the person because they have to say what they're going to envision for that person. And they don't know if they're going to be called on. So if they aren't paying attention, they look like kind of like jerks, not listening to people's future and dreams. But it works and it's fun and everyone loves it.
Always do breakout rooms with topics so the group can have that mutual conversation, because otherwise they're lost. They really are. They need directions.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's finish up now with virtual events. Have a mission to meet again. Always find a way. Now, what I like what Sandy does with her groups, she has a Facebook group that is active after the event. So they could go there, communicate, talk about things, upload pictures. She encourages people to upload Instagram moments so other people could see those, to connect, going, oh, I was in there too. So there's a connection point at the end, a follow through to make sure there's still conversation going on after the event ends, because that encourages people to know what's next. When do we connect again? This was so much fun. So make sure you go through those flows on those online events. Okay, before we go to how to create a small event and a big event, which is really important, the small event can change all of your businesses, all of them. And you can start doing it now. It changed my life. I started them in the early 90s. And to this day, some of those small events continue to get together. And I'll explain why they are necessary and how they can make you an individual dominant influence by creating an epicenter of opportunity. But before we do that, what was the best event you ever went to? Conference, not trade show, but conference. And a conference is like a TED Talk or a Tony Robbins, because a trade show is like CES, Consumer Electronics Show, or the Magic Show, which is around apparel, or the automotive show. Those are trade shows. What was the best conference you went to, or summit? What was it? So I'm just going to kind of go through this. Alan, I know you're laying down there. I know you're injured, but you do look comfortable being injured, so it's good to have you there. Alan, best event you've ever been to?
Best event. Well, actually, it's a. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it'd be a toss-up of the various ones you presented. I liked Sasha, and that's.
You like the online events?
I've been to CES, and that was a schlep, and had products there. But I mean, the most recent, the most fulfilling have been the string of ones that have been coming through metal.
Wow.
I sent you an email about Saul Khan, which you may look at. He's an educator. Anyway, check your email when you get a chance.
I'll look it out. Alan, are you feeling any better?
Yeah, I actually didn't fall off a tree. I actually pulled a basketball post and backboard on top of me, pinning me down and cracking my leg. So I'm getting pulse electromagnetic field therapy right now to hasten the recovery.
Wow.
Stay off those ladders.
Well, no, I did. I stayed off the ladder. I'd hooked up a tether to a palm tree and was ratcheting it and pulled the rusty post on top of me. Anyway, I was lucky.
Get better, Alan. Okay, we're going to go over to Andrew. Andrew, the best event. Come on, Andrew, let's hear from you, buddy.
I would have to say it was a singularity. It was the Exponential Finance conference in New York in 2015. Very well organized, very well run, and I still maintain connections with a lot of people that I met there. So a wonderful event overall.
That's impressive. You know, will you continue conversations and relationships after? God, that's incredible. I love hearing that. And those are expensive events.
That was, yes, that was crazy. That was like $5,000.
But if you could have got one good relationship out of it that made you $25,000 or $30,000, that was well worth it, right? Every event I try to put on, I always want a 10x return.
Yeah,
so if it's
well, I'm still working on that, but yeah.
Well, I'm going to teach you how to do that when we come back. Okay, great. Let's see. We're going to go over to Harak, who's probably driving in his car, knowing how he is. Harak, are you in the car? Let's see you, buddy. Oh, we got Mike Brown. I guess, Mike, I want to get Harak in here. There's Harak. Hey, Harak.
Hey, how's it going?
You're not in your car.
No, not in my car yet. I'm actually on my way out. The best event, I guess the first one that comes to mind would be Unleash the Power Within. The most memorable moment was so before we walked on fire, Tony did like a 2-hour meditation with us with visualizations and breath work. And this was inside the Galen Center at USC. About 9,000, 10,000 people in a massive stadium. And it was incredible. Most of the people that I talked to that did UPW, they were in like a convention center where everyone's just on the ground and they're watching him on stage. But being in a stadium seating and just being able to see everybody's faces at the same time, man, that was quite a powerful event. And then we all walked out and went in front of the Shrine Auditorium, and they had all the coals burning. It was incredible. Definitely a memorable moment.
Cool moss.
Yeah, cool moss, exactly.
Inside you two, inside baseball.
He has you walk on the coals. He has you say cool moss so that you don't think hot coals. Because otherwise you're like, hot coals. But if you're thinking cool moss, you're like, okay, this is just cool like moss.
Wow, it's awesome.
Until you stop because someone distracts you.
Yeah, it's that NLP at work.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rock. Great to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good seeing you.
Mike Brown, what do you got? Best event? Can't hear you, Mike Brown. Good graphics, bad sound. Come on.
That microphone there is not working.
Mike Brown, nope. Come on. No, come on. Nope. It's kind of like my event in China. Didn't understand anything that's going on there. All right. We're going to go down to Mr. Steele, who's in Vegas.
Next time, Mike. We miss you, though.
Come on. Richard Steele.
Hello. So, best event for me is a group called Aegis Financial. It's a conference they do every year in the Rockies, and it's a smaller group, usually 200 to 300, and it's all their attention to detail that makes it so special. They know everyone by name. There's so many extras that they care about you. So
it makes a difference, doesn't it?
Definitely.
And is it a membership organization that you're part of to be there? How do you get part of it?
I'm not really sure. I'm brought in as a performer, truthfully. So.
Oh, that makes it a lot better, isn't it?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, there's a difference between being on stage and then being in the crowd, because when you're on stage, you get that VIP treatment even more.
Right, but they treat everyone like I see it. I can go, wow, they greet their people. They know them by name. They ask them about their family, their dog that maybe was sick. I mean, they know intimate details.
I love it.
So
thanks for that. Thanks, Richard. We liked Vegas. It was actually cooler in Vegas than it was in LA, so it was really good for us.
Today it's only like 80-something degrees.
Yeah, but you can still smell them. The smoke. Hey, Wayne.
Hey, Ken, how are you?
Hey, Wayne. What's going on, buddy?
I'm back.
Back.
Doing a lot of things, but three things come to mind. There's like professional, and then there's personal development type of conference that I've been to, both virtual and in person. So the first one comes to mind, when I was with Accenture, there's a large healthcare information management group. That's my bag now. AI, cloud, technology, enabling people to make good decisions about healthcare and improving healthcare outcomes. And so it's the largest network of healthcare information individuals. Last conference was 48,000 people. Think about how many people that was to coordinate. All right, so there's coursework, there's vendors display, there's interoperability, showcases. I'm amazed by you can coordinate, and you can only have it in Las Vegas or Orlando, right? Because that many people, where are you going to put them? But what's so good about that, I typically would speak at them, but also I can also be an attendant as a representative of my company rather than pay the $3,000, $4,000. And what's great about that, those are connections I still have going to that conference 15 years now. And so it's paid itself over and over again in terms of business, personal development, professional development, you name it. So to me, that's just amazing. Now it went online this year. And so they did an amazing job with an online conference as well. Clearly not scale to handle not quite that many people, but they had all the breakout rooms like you were suggesting, and they were slotted by time. And so I see a lot more of that. Microsoft, all the technology companies, and then these conferences. And you don't get zoomed out if you just pace yourself. And I really like how they've done that. But kudos to them. It's really, it's a
Accenture-
technology and logistics.
Accenture's after parties are pretty amazing.
They're amazing. and they're,
God.
and their professional development within the company are just top notch. They just do an amazing job. I really take it for granted and how they did everything. But then going to these conferences that we're part of, just blew my mind away and just learned so much from it. And it's a real give and receive, and I really liked it a lot.
Thanks a lot, Wayne. Good to see you, by the way. I'm happy that you're back. I really am.
Thank you. Me too.
Very smart guy. Okay. So now, oh, by the way, Accenture would be one of my favorite events too. I did an Accenture event down in Florida, and they turned the beach into the stage, and they built it over the water.
That's cool.
It's insane. God, the money that went into it. They don't jerk around at all. I mean, nothing was skipped at all. It was lobster dinners every night. Oh yeah, they spent a fortune per person. So I want to talk about Denny's. Denny's restaurant. I want to talk about Denny's. When was the last time you were at Denny's?
Oh, it's been so long.
I like Denny's.
I actually don't remember.
I like Denny's. Moon over Miami. Let me tell you a secret about Denny's.
Unlimited bottomless coffee?
Yes, and that's all you need to buy to stay in a Denny's. To sit there, all you need is a cup of coffee.
So $1.10.
That's it.
Maybe $1.99.
And you got, it's as long as they could be inside, you have an inside place to hang. Cup of coffee. And it's bottomless, as Sandy just said. Now, why is that important? Well, I want to go back to 1992, and I am working with my father for a short period of time in an industry that I just did not like. My father has a very successful financial services company. And in financial services, to start your business, you need to use your friends to get them to sell them whatever. You could start from health insurance, life insurance, investment vehicles, whatever it is. And the problem was all my friends were my father's clients because I would go, hey, Dad, you got to talk to my friend here. And so when I got into the business, my resource pool was gone because my dad had it. So I had to start a way to find prospecting new people. So I sat here because come on, guys, I'm a social butterfly. I meet people all the time. So I figured, how do I get people that I kind of know together and find a way to get them to help me find referrals? Denny's was the secret. 1992, I went off to find 10 people that I kind of knew in totally unrelated spaces. Somebody owned a mechanic garage, a lawyer, a dentist. So all 10 of them, including myself, were unrelated in business, but we were all in business. And every Tuesday morning at 7, I go, guys, let's just hang out and talk about what's going on in our businesses, in our local town, our community, from what's going on with laws, regulations, how to prospect, what's going on when it comes to local issues going on with our local government. Didn't matter. Every week I had a purpose that gathered us together. Those 10 people religiously would meet at 7:30 at that Denny's in Orland Park, Illinois, 1992. That thing grew to be over 200 people who, by the way, still meet at the same Denny's since 1992 in Orland Park on Tuesday mornings. Purpose, place to hang, consistency with topics. I got so much business out of this because we were always there helping each other out. And all it took was a cup of coffee. Denny's, by the way, loved it because nobody was coming in there at 9:30 or 7:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. And the place was packed and they bought more than coffee. But the idea is this: if you are not creating that epicenter of opportunity, if you can, by the way, of course, many places won't allow you to do anything inside, but once you start to do this, where you can do stuff inside, create this environment where you invite like-minded, non-competing entrepreneurs together on a regular basis. Make sure you narrate who they are. You don't want to have a jerk part of the group. Make sure you have a topic that you're going to talk about. Make sure it's always concise, 7:30 to 9, and we're done. Make sure it's affordable, and make sure it's always predictable and consistent. This thing still goes on. 30 years later almost. Because all you have to do is have those simple formulas to create that small pocket of opportunity. And why Denny's? Because the cost to get in was How much?
$1.10 or something.
For a cup of coffee. You can do this anywhere as long as you can find a place like a Denny's that allows you to say, hey, come in. Find an idle time maybe where the restaurant or that coffee shop says, hey, there's no one ever in here at this time. We would love for you to come in here. Idle times are sometimes the best times. They would even promote it for you.
Yeah.
But use this as a way to create a micro event. So you are the individual dominant influence that's creating an epicenter of opportunity.
Yep.
So I just want to stress this. I do this all over the world. I get people to do this. And I've been telling them to do this since the early 2000s. And I see all these little hang points where people are doing this around the world. And they make the individuals that are putting on these little events insanely successful. So I want you to do this, especially in different parts. Like in Vegas, you could sit inside. It was really nice to sit inside a restaurant, I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, it was.
God, was that
But if
nice.
we were outside, we would have melted.
Yeah, but again, it was hotter here than there.
It was still hot. It was like 150.
People had to eat outside here. It was
Yeah,
weird.
but there's like no misters. And you would have cooked to death.
Oh God, it was, okay.
It's a drier heat.
I liked it over there, the heat. I'm just saying, we should just become a resident there.
It did create really nice hair.
It,
Just saying, if you got long hair or you care about your
Vegas.
hair, Vegas is the
it was
hair
a lot
spot.
less expensive. So that little individual
Mike's like,
space, Mike knows, man. He doesn't go outside. Richard never goes out. Richard never even goes out.
Richard says it's $2.29 for a cup of coffee nowadays.
All right, so it's a little
That's not
more, but find a Denny's. There's a bunch of Denny's we saw for 15 off 215. There are Denny's out there, but what a way to bring a consistent group of people together. And I'm just going to tell you, you do it 3 or 4 times, watch it explode. Remember, your first is your
First.
It's always your worst.
Another interesting place for meetups that people overlook, which is totally available, is your local library. Believe it or not, they have rooms designated for that. And if you are a resident of that city, you can usually reserve it for free. And I know because I've looked into this, if you are not a resident, sometimes they'll charge. So for example, West Hollywood has the most beautiful library.
Let me say that. I want to see it.
It's so gorgeous. It's like a newer library. It's all glass and modern. It has gorgeous gardens. And they have beautiful rooms that hold up to, I think, like 120 people with glass windows. It's gorgeous. And if you're a resident of West Hollywood, you can rent it anytime for free. And if you're not, I think the fee is really nominal. It's like $100. So just an idea.
Yeah, you might want to look at those locations. Library's a great idea. So just bring people together, please. Because I'm not sure if you notice, a lot of us are sitting going, God, I really wish I could find somebody who could curate great people for me to hang out with. And if you can do that, you're saving a lot of people from their business. And in a lot of ways, one of the biggest causes of people dying is loneliness.
Yeah.
By creating good groups of entrepreneurs that are hanging out, what an opportunity. All right, now I want to talk about big events. So I know you're not talking a lot on this one. I'm sorry about this. No,
You're the event guy.
I am the event guy.
I can just tell you how to look really fly at those events. I'm just saying. It's true.
She does. So I want to start with the country of South Korea during the early 2000s. Now, most people, Korea now, South Korea, because of course, either the conflict with North Korea or it's got big companies like Samsung.
Or the anti-dog meat protesters.
I ate dog twice not knowing it, but that's another story. Nolan was with me. I think Nolan actually had dog by accident. He's not here anymore.
No, he's
is he?
there. He's there.
I think he may have had dog by accident. He may not know that, but he may have. So South Korea did the Olympics, was just after this huge government change, but Korea was trying to put themselves on the map. So I went to go speak at an event and I realized that their events weren't translating properly to people. So I pitched an idea. Let's make Korea the new spot to launch rockets. This is 2005. They go, what? That's crazy. I go, I know. Even if we never launch rockets, let's make it the place to discuss space and everything about innovation. So I talked to one guy, he goes, I can actually get you in front of the president of the country, Moon Lee, to talk about this idea just to see if it works. So I met with the president of South Korea and he goes, I love it. How are you going to get everybody here? I go, I need your help. First, I don't want to pay any speakers. They go, you got to be kidding me. How are we going to get speakers here? I go, because, Mr. President, you are going to throw an event for them. People like Richard Branson want to meet you and hang out with you. If you invite them saying, I want to meet you and I want you to discuss what you're working on in front of an audience that I bring together, they're not going to say no. He goes, I doubt that. So we decided to try this out. We invited Richard Branson. He said yes. No cost, by the way. So let's go after Bill Gates. He said yes. Now we had Richard Branson and Bill Gates, so we went after other people like Sumner Redstone, which Nolan was with us on that event. We went after, look at Nolan remembers that. We went after all of these, Eric Schmidt, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. So I ran the event for 5 years, realizing that if I had access to the president of the country and they would send these potential speakers a letter, the people would come. And you're thinking, Ken, I'm never going to get access to a president of a country. Local governments, wherever you're at, the mayor of Las Vegas, who, by the way, if you get him to send a letter saying, hey, because he wants to meet great people too, the mayor does, you partner with local governments, municipalities. If you get bigger, to governments or to world leaders, they are all a way to get a bird in a feather, to get them to the event, be your speakers, when government entities help out with the process. Now, Nolan.
And so many are corrupt that it's super easy. You can bribe them with a cup of coffee.
Hey, Nolan, do you remember our last keynote of the Soul Digital Forum? Do you remember what we did, which was kind of nutty? I'm trying to unmute you. Let's see if he remembers.
I remember it well.
Okay, so what we did is we took all the keynote speakers and we brought them all on stage. Do you remember that?
And we all just did a riff on what was going on. And of course, I was trying to be funny, and several others. And Sumner Redstone, if there is somebody that has no sense of humor, it's Sumner. May he rest in peace.
You neglected to remember one very important thing we did. Each one of you introduced themselves. So it was you, Scott Page, John Dvorak, we all took shots of soju.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And so
well, if you have too much soju, you forget about it.
We did. So we had 15 people on stage, and I believe you were like 12. By the time I got to 12, everybody was drunk on stage. We had the head of NASA was there, the head of Boeing. It was pretty amazing. But what did it do was everybody connected. Now, do you remember the 14th floor, Nolan?
Yeah, great breakfast.
But it was all the keynote speakers were all in the same hotel, and we all were in the club lounge.
Right.
Insane business came out of that.
Yeah. Good fun.
Are you just playing video? Are you playing games?
I just finished a game.
Yeah.
And I just lost. Thank you.
Love that you still play games.
Of course, he's Nolan. He's got to play games. Nolan, honest to God, I'm working on a post about you right now for my Instagram. There's a picture of you and I doing a radio interview. It's all about you. That's my post today. I haven't finished it yet, but
the thing I remember so much about that trip is when we went out to the demilitarized zone, and down in that cave, that tunnel that they built, and have eating the slugs and the.
You did. He ate the bugs. Nolan ate bugs. I got to go find those pictures, Nolan. You did. I pointed. I go, Nolan, eat that. He goes, okay. What?
My mom ate bugs too. I think it's just a thing.
Well, I'll tell you, I had one. If you've never had Aunt Egg risotto in Mexico City, It is just so good.
Hey, Nolan, you missed us because you were playing the game. What was the best event you've ever been to? Conference, not trade show, but conference or summit.
I think I had, well, there's a couple of ways of doing it. Getting business and that, one thing. The one that I had the most fun at was in Kuwait.
Kuwait, in Doha. What was it?
It was right in Doha, and I was there. And what was fun about it is my host, I said, hey, how do you, would it be disrespectful if I had a full Arab headdress and white thing. And what you don't realize in these Arab countries is if you express interest in something, they give it to you. Next morning at my hotel, showed up a whole thing. And so I gave the speech in full Arab regalia.
I got to see a picture of that. Now, you came over to my house in that whole outfit one time. You did. I know you did.
And this wonderful lady there who was Arab said, "Oh boy, have you ever got this on wrong?" And she readjusted it.
But something that you said that was interesting was the event that we did in Korea. You remember certain things I just brought up, like the 14th floor, all the speakers were together.
Yeah.
And that was an opportunity for tons of business. Matter of fact, Dennis Levine, he was inspired from something back then. He just raised a ton of money for just last week. It took him all that time for the farming platform that he learned about at that event. So
Wow.
A lot of things happen at those events if you do things right for the speakers and then for the audience. Because you really got to look at both sides. Nolan, I love that you were there. That was a great
That
time.
was fun.
Big events, by the way, guys, once they start going, we're going to do an event in Dubai the second week of December. And it's a in-person event for 100,000 people.
Wow.
I'm curious to see how it's going to work out. I know, Nolan, the events now, are you doing a lot of online keynotes?
Few.
You have done. How
Yeah.
are those?
I like them.
Well, I know you like them. But
Well, I'm charming, and I think everybody has a good time at it.
where do you see the opportunity for virtual events? Do you see a big business for virtual events?
No, I don't see it as a big thing. I think that there's something about, Las Vegas and conferences and things like that that are good. I think that until the trade show business gets back in full swing, I think that the domestic stuff is not good. Used to be a good conference speaking environment in the universities, and of course the universities are NFG right now,
Yeah.
and actually they were kind of going that way anyway. So
Wait, real quick. Conferences at universities? What
Yeah.
events are you speaking? What do you revert?
well, they'd have speakers talking about my main speech for universities was entrepreneurship, and what do you train for to become a good entrepreneur? How do you how do you really fill your experience base? And I did a few things that probably I shouldn't have. I said, well, drop out of college and get some jobs.
I agree with you. That's the whole Peter Thiel direction, isn't it? So what's the question we have? What do we got?
What do you see next for the virtual events business?
I am not a big fan of virtual events, and I think Nolan probably says the same thing. Because one thing that, as a speaker, sure, we might get paid, to do a virtual talk. The problem is we don't get to meet anyone. And one of the reasons I like being a speaker, Nolan, you're probably the same way. You like meeting the people at the events.
Absolutely, and you, in order to be a good speaker, you have to be a good poker player. You have to be able to read tells of the crowd, and you can tell pretty soon what they like that you're saying, what they don't like, what they're resonant with, what they're bored with. And so in order to really do a good job as a speaker, you really have to resonate with what the people want and appreciate.
Yeah. Hey, Nolan, are you going to do any live in-person events soon? So if I could get you a speaking gig in December, would you do it?
Absolutely.
Across the ocean?
Across the ocean.
Yeah, in Dubai?
I love Dubai.
Okay. I'm actually talking.
Have you ever been out in the dunes in Dubai?
Well, yeah, of course. I have done that. She hasn't done it. We're going to do that in December. But
with the whirling dervishes and the belly dancers and the whole 9
I
yards.
went with Bebop. Do you think, Nolan, I'm being serious because I'm going to talk to them. She's been hearing me talk to them lately. They're asking for speakers. Is that something you might want to do the first week of December, second week?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep you up to date on that. Yeah, CK, the big thing is empathy. You can't feel people's emotion virtually. It's a really, really tough thing to do.
Unless you're with Joette, who always cries.
Yeah,
It's worse than speaking to junior high schools. You know,
but people do
high
it.
school kids are impossible to talk to because they're all afraid to emote with anything because they don't want to stand out.
Yeah, but Nolan, let's flip it around. How about associations and trade groups that have done events for a long time? They still get members to pay for something. They feel like they have to have events. And since they can't do in-person events, virtual is the only thing they can do. So they're almost forced to have to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're still going to continue. We may not like it as speakers. It's much more effective and efficient for us as speakers because we don't have to travel.
Yeah.
But you know, they're going to have to continue to go on. There might be hybrids of in-person, like for example, the one in Vegas, or not Vegas, in Nashville that I'm doing in 2 weeks. They're going to do a hybrid where some people are going to be online and some people are in person.
Brendan's doing that as well.
Same thing?
Yeah, he's doing options. And I actually find that a lot of the people are preferring the virtual because they don't have to pay for hotel, they don't have to get on a plane, they don't have to move their schedules around, they could stay at home, they could do the live events, and they still get dropped into rooms and meet new people. So people are actually liking it.
Okay.
I don't know. I have to get out or I get stir crazy,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I like virtual events, CK saying too. I like metal. Yeah, well, metal, of course, I'm just going to tell you guys, once this whole virus thing is gone or whatever this really is, we will find a way to do a hybrid where you'll still find Saturday to be the way it is now online, but during the week, we want people to get together. We think it's important to, you know, rub elbows, literally rub elbows and talk about what's going on and do hikes and do all that. We think it's vital to have real face-to-face interaction, but it will be a hybrid for us because we figured this works much, much better as a global group, Metal International.
You know, I'm liking the Saturday morning things that we're doing. You're doing. I think they're fun. I feel like I've gotten closer to some of the people by doing that. You know.
Yeah, I know you're on time too, because normally you're not.
Oh, he's not sitting in traffic.
Well, I brought being tardy to a high.
You have Nolan time. What time are you going to be there? About 2 o'clock. Nolan time? Yeah, that's about 4. Okay, I got it. No, but Nolan, you just said something regarding education. You've seen a change on that. They're all going virtual now. Every college, every high school, every school has gone virtual. So they have to almost craft the way they're doing their events differently because kids are just tuning out.
Yeah. Well, it's actually accelerated what I consider to be the toxic nature of universities that has been going on for the last 10 years. And that in some ways they've abandoned objectivity and moved towards a curriculum that is not relevant in many instances. And charging a lot of money for it.
God, yeah.
And so I believe the economic underpinnings of higher education has come off. And it's probably,
real quick, I want to ask Rick. Rick, what's your thought regarding this? What's going on with, what do you call them? Net
cars. Yeah. Well, it's actually something similar to what you're doing on Saturday mornings anyway. But the difference is that people come prepared in advance about a particular question. And they're posed questions. They can pick out the questions they want to respond to. They determine their own learning objectives. They determine their own learning outcomes. And it's a divergent forum where people come together to speak top of mind about a particular issue or question. And I've run a couple of these, and it's turbocharged in some respects of what you're doing on Saturday mornings because people have actually had time to do some slow thinking and deep reflection about something before coming in it. And then what happens is you create an environment where emergence can arise, and you don't know what the outcome is because everybody comes in. You're not setting the agenda. You're not setting, clear objectives about an event. So,
but you do have a topic.
Yes, I do. Yeah. There's a link there to something that I'm just trying to promote actually, and I'm trying to work with organizations that are willing to field test it. I'm doing one as a sort of trial thing, but it's actually a series, and the idea is how do you create learning networks, organizations, communities around complex issues? Because the thing about complex issues is that nobody has the upper hand on it.
No.
It's got to be all hands on deck. Everyone's got to be collaborating. Everybody's got to have mindsets aligned, even though there'll be some divergence, but we have to be moving in the same direction, which in a society that's crippled by dysfunctional polarization, everyone's working against each other.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But it sounds like you have the like-minded people that want to be involved with solving those problems then too.
Well, no, this is early days. I've just got a prototype here, and if you guys are interested, I'd be delighted to offer. If you wanted to.
Do me a favor. I'll grab what you have inside the chat, and I'll go take a look at this. I want to do one quick thing before we go, and I just want to say something to CK. Hey, CK, you asked about master classes. Master classes are great. They're insanely well produced. Chris Voss, who's a member of Metal, he's got the most successful masterclass now, which is all around Never Split the Difference. He's the FBI hostage negotiator. He has done well because he's been compensated based upon every time somebody watches that. It's almost like listening to music on the radio. He gets a small percentage he makes based upon how many people watch. But masterclasses are such high level of production, it's hard to duplicate that in other environments. It really is. They're very, very expensive. But for $160, it's a damn good deal to buy the package of masterclasses. Hey guys, that's all we have time for today. We really appreciate you sharing time with us. Sandy, thank you so much. Hey, check out Sandy in Focus. She's been working
your face on there.
What's that, Nolan? What are you saying?
I'm saying Sandy is a bright light in your life.
Oh my God, yes.
Thank you, Nolan.
Oh yeah. Check out whatever Nolan's doing because I have no idea, but he'll be in my post today on Instagram. But Sandy in Focus, I'm very impressed what she's working on. And everyone, thanks a lot. Again, apologize for the technical difficulty at the very beginning. But that's it. We'll see you guys later. Bye, everyone. Bye.